NBC12.com, a Somerville high school student who says he was arrested and suspended after writing about killing a dinosaur using a gun in a class assignment has hired a lawyer. Attorney David Ayler, who is representing the 16-year-old Alex Stone, said his client's arrest over a creative writing assignment on Tuesday was completely absurd and is seeking an appeal to appeal the suspension and proceed with the legal issues of Stone's arrest. This is a perfect example of political correctness that has exceeded the boundaries of common sense, Ayler said in a statement released on Thursday. Students were asked to write about themselves and a creative Facebook status update just days into the new school year. My client was arrested and suspended after a school assignment. The Somerville Police Department, who arrested Stone on Tuesday on a charge of disorderly conduct, which of course is like the catch-all when it comes to charges. It's like, we didn't know nothing about making real charges, so we got this one we use all the time just in case. And is disputing Stone's account of the arrest. The information that is being reported is grossly incorrect in reference to what led to the juvenile being charged, said Captain John Rogers, a Somerville police statement released on Thursday. The charges do not stem from anything involving a dinosaur or writing assignment, but the student's conduct. Stone said that he and his classmates were told in class to write a few sentences about themselves and a status as if it was a Facebook page. Stone said in his status he wrote a fictional story that involved the words gun and take care of business. I killed my neighbor's pet dinosaur, and then in the next status I said I brought the gun to school to take care of business, Stone said. Stone says
Okay.
Yep. Stone says his statements were taken completely out of context. I could understand.
Yeah, it sounds like ridiculous fiction here. I mean, obviously, no one has a dinosaur, so clearly this seems to be in the land of fiction. This doesn't sound like a violent fantasy at all towards destroying real human life.
Well, if he were writing this in a math class, that would be different. But this is a creative writing class.
Yeah.
This is a perfectly appropriate place to be writing a fictional story like this.
And fictional stories, the ones that I've seen that sort of make it to the big time, you know, movies, video games, these kind of fictional stories, lots of guns.
They have conflict. It's one of the real factors you need to have for a fictional story to be interesting, is to have conflict. I remember learning about that in school. Like, you know, there's man versus nature, man versus whatever, robots.
Dinosaur.
Dinosaurs, yeah. So there's all these different types of conflict that you can have, but you've got to have conflict to have a story.
Yeah, and conflict is very easily shown in visual mediums with physical conflict. I don't think, I wonder whether you could do a 90-minute movie and just show sort of interpersonal conflict and have it be compelling. Because I think you'd really destroy Hollywood if you had to get rid of guns.
It's not even September yet, and the school police are already arresting students for victimless crimes. I mean, really, the school year hasn't even begun. What is this, week 1? And they're already arresting kids for stories they're writing? You know, assignments. He probably got an A. I mean, it has no bearing on the grade that he got. And think about how this affects the other students in his classroom. I don't know if the police came into his classroom to arrest him or not.
I don't know.
But think about what it tells the rest of the students in that creative writing class. I mean, they're going to be writing some pretty boring stories this year. They're not going to want to venture out and use their imaginations. They're just going to be afraid, hey, is the next word I write going to signal the police to come in and arrest me?
Well, it's certainly true that Hollywood blockbuster films are usually involve violence, but there are plenty of films, Mark.
Art house films.
Yeah, art house films, chick flicks. Many of those don't have much violence. Maybe somebody gets decked in a chick flick or something like that, but you're not going to see anybody waving guns around.
But that is a cheap way of showing conflict, right? Yeah. Even the decking, right? Like, it's not, the verbal argument between, the one guy that wants the girl versus the other guy that wants the girl.
Conflict.
Could take minutes to show, whereas the punch takes seconds. And it shows that this was an important conflict. It's just, it's a visual, I think it's a bad visual because it might show that, hey, if you're in a dispute with another guy over a girl, maybe the best thing to do is hit the guy.
So just to be clear, this guy, 16, was charged with disorderly conduct for writing a fictional story.
No, he was charged with disorderly conduct for being upset about being suspended over a...
oh, I'm sorry. I missed that detail.
That's the nuance to it.
Uh-huh.
But
so they gave him a suspension over writing a fictional story.
And you can't be upset about it, or else you'll be charged with the crime.
Let me read it to you here.
Okay.
So investigators say the teacher contacted school officials after seeing the message containing the words gun and take care of business. The police were notified on Tuesday. Somerville Police Department went through his book bag and locker, and no gun was found. And according to the police, Stone was asked by school officials about the comment written in the assignment. He became very irate and said it was a joke. A Somerville Police Department report states that Stone continued to be disruptive and was placed in handcuffs. You see, being upset and expressing your upset at being treated like treating it in just an insane fashion, this is a crime.
I have the statutes here from the state of South Carolina. You said this was South Carolina, correct? Yep. Public disorderly conduct, Section 1A. The accused was found on any highway or public place in a grossly intoxicated condition or was conducting himself in a disorderly or boisterous manner. B, this is the one I think that they're going to apply here, that the accused did use obscene or profane language on any highway, public place, gathering, or in hearing distance of any church or schoolhouse. So presumably the young man said something profane in his tirade or in his anger about being suspended, and that will likely be what they claim in this particular statute. But I wonder, how many disorderly conduct charges of this, like this, actually go up to trial? How many of them end up in trial? Because it seems to me a pretty clear violation of your right to free speech if you can't say something obscene or profane within earshot of a church or schoolhouse or on any highway. So everybody who's ever been upset about somebody doing something stupid on the road in front of them and has said, GD or F this or whatever.
Disorderly.
You're going to jail. Apparently, this is a misdemeanor offense. I mean, come on. This seems like a clear violation of free speech. And what was it? There was a mom in a grocery store who was recently charged with disorderly for cursing in front of somebody's kid or something like that.
Her kid.
Okay, whatever. Either way, again, these just seem so ridiculous. I wonder if anybody's ever really been convicted in an actual criminal trial or if everybody just takes the plea deal or the charges get dropped.
The vast majority of people do take the plea deal or the charges get dropped. I mean, that's kind of what it is. Far fewer than 1% of cases in this country end up at trial.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't know what that says about the judicial system other than it sounds like it's completely broken.
Let's go to John. He's in northern Minnesota listening to WNMT. Hey, John, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah. That story about the boy getting arrested at school.
Yes, sir.
That's a fantastic commercial for homeschooling.
Absolutely.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, no government bureaucrat has threatened my child with arrest for whatever it is that he says about whatever's going on in our house.
This is Free Talk Live. Say, do you think a 16-year-old, or anyone for that matter, should go to jail in South Carolina for, let's see, up to 30 days because they cursed in public? Because they cursed within earshot of a church or schoolhouse? Because that's what's actually happened, apparently. There's a young man who's been charged. He hasn't gone to jail yet, but he's been charged with disorderly conduct for being upset about being suspended for writing a fictional story for his creative writing class.
And having his bag and locker searched.
Oh, lovely. Now, we can continue with the disorderly conduct story with this teenager, but our last caller, who had correctly pointed out that this is a great reason to keep your kids away from government schools. Look, if you've got kids and they're in the government schools, really, really, you should do everything you can to get them out. Do whatever it takes, I think, to get them out of those government schools, whether it's putting them in a private school, homeschooling, unschooling, getting together with groups of people to facilitate more homeschooling and unschooling. I think these are the ways to get your kids out of the clutches of these government bureaucrats who seem really intent on giving them criminal records in a lot of cases before they've even left the high school.
I don't think they're intent on that. They're trying to protect themselves. They're saying, if this kid brought in a gun and then shot up the school and they had some prior knowledge that he wrote some creative essay saying, he was going to shoot a dinosaur with a gun, and they didn't investigate it, well, then they're afraid that they would be on the chopping block.
And
Could be.
I think that it's the rare instance that something like this happens. The average person who sends their kid to public school is unlikely to deal with something like this. Now,
is that true? I mean, there were thousands of people in Texas, thousands of students in just Texas alone who had received Class C misdemeanor charges, or maybe it was Class D, but either way, some low-class misdemeanor charge for doing things that we all did in school and that were just sort of part and parcel of growing up. They've now turned into criminal charges. So I don't know, Mark, if the average person will or will not have an encounter like this.
I don't know what the average person means, but I do know that it was heavily weighted in those circumstances against people who are ethnically disadvantaged. You know what I mean? So that's
Is that true?
unfortunate.
I don't recall that detail.
That
story.
detail was what I recall in the Mississippi story.
Okay.
Also,
Mississippi, I recall that one, but not Texas.
Okay. I don't remember. I can't remember. I wouldn't doubt it for a second. But for me, what the point, the most important and salient point here is that you can't create creativity and zeal, excitement. You can't create intelligence. You can't really create any of these things. But you can destroy all of those things. And the public school system seems, from what I can tell, to be set up to do precisely that. That it makes kids far less excited about learning. It pigeonholes them into learning a specific way and then cripples them in learning a different way throughout their life, because you don't stop learning in school. Once you get out of school, you continue to learn. And the people that have learned how to learn far better than people who never did learn how to learn, because, I guess if I want to learn how to do X, I'm going to have to go sit in a classroom and have somebody tell me how to do it. This is a terrible way to learn how to. It's an expensive, inefficient way to learn how to learn things. I don't want my son to learn that. And so I don't put him in the public school system. I also know that kids are excited about whatever they're excited about at any given time, right? Like they get on little Jags right now for whatever reason. Jack's excited about the game Risk. Well, here's a real opportunity. He wants to play with the little plastic pieces, right? Here's a real opportunity. We can do geography and math and sort of creativity all in talking, because he doesn't want to play regular Risk. That's boring. He wants to play the version of Risk that he comes up with on the fly. And, as daddy and mommy kind of work with him on it, then we can talk about, you want to take Madagascar? Well, we have to learn something about Madagascar before we take Madagascar. And, if you know one thing about a given region, you know a lot about it.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
Right. It's pretty awesome. And then how many troops are over there?
You're probably learning a lot too.
Every time with the things that he's learning, I'm learning something too. But, so this is the way that you use excitement to learn something. But you can't do that with 25 kids who are running around and feel like a bunch of different stuff's going on and those kind of things. You might be able to do it with 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. But I don't think you can do it with any more than that. And that's why I'm against this whole institutional setup of education that we have. I'm not just against public schools, although I think public schools show the least amount of accountability for their actions, as evidenced by the fact that the cops came in, threw this kid's locker, threw his bag, and then arrested him for complaining about it. Yeah, I think they're the least accountable.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.